Okay, so this is a Singer Heavy Duty. I have it on zigzag stitch. The length is going to be 4. And at the top we have the width, which also is a 6 for me. The needle's in the middle position, and the tension is also going to be on 6 for me. These are the way that I like to make my wigs. So we're going to get right into it. This is the mesh dome cap. You can get this at the beauty supply. But these are the mesh dome cap, and these are the caps that I prefer to make all my wigs on. So you're going to
Then
get
you'll
your
take your
canvas.
4
This
by
is a
4
20-inch
closure
canvas, and you're going
to
to put your closure,
place the center
line it
of
up
my
with
closure.
the edge of the
Always bring it
mesh cap.
about,
And once
I
you
would
line it up,
say,
you want to bring about a 1/2 inch
almost a
down
half
the
an
closure in
inch
front of the cap,
in front
and then
of the
get you
mesh
a stick pin and go ahead and
dome
place the
cap. And then
closure
you
in
can place a
place.
stick pin
And you're
there.
going to secure all
Then
4
you'll take
corners,
a stick pin
including the middle
and line it up here.
of your closure so that it lays flat. The ideal is for the closure to lay flat, so that's
Make
where we
sure
know the
that's
wig will lay
flat.
flat also on the customer's head. So
Take
once
a
you have
stick pin and line
securely
it up
placed
here.
your closure, and you're just going to check
Once
yourself
it's
to make
lined
sure
up,
that it is secure,
you want to
that
make sure that
everything
it's
is
flat.
coming across
That's the
flat
important thing,
all
is making sure that
around
it's
4
flat.
corners.
And once it's
And then,
there,
as you can see
so
here,
flat
it
all
looks
the way
pretty good,
around.
flat
It needs to be
everywhere, so
flat.
we're good to go ahead and start marking our dome cap. I am going to use a measuring tape, and I mark my parts 1 inch apart, and I'm using a metallic Sharpie as well to mark it. I don't like using chalk because it leaves those heavy lines on the inside of the wig. So I do like the metallic silver because the line is very light and faint, but you can still see it with your naked eye. So you go through and mark at each inch down the mesh cap. Once you have your marking securely done, then you're going to remove your mesh tape, which I will do in a moment. And then once you're done marking, you can remove the tape and then go through and go across the line, center fold like that. So you're just going to go back across each marking and connect it all the way across. Make sure that your cap is, tight onto the canvas head. Like I said, this is a 20-inch, so this is a small wig. 20-inch circumference canvas head. But just go through and mark like so. That's where you're although it doesn't look like you can see what I'm doing, but just continue to watch and you'll be able to see exactly the outcome of the markings. It's going to line up very neatly, which is what we go for, is neat lines. That's where our wefts, our tracks are, lined up neatly, because ideal is a flat wig, a custom made flat wig. And you'll have to turn your canvas head here and there to, be able to mark your canvas head. And you keep that line straight. You don't bend it or anything like that. You just keep it straight. So you want to connect each side with the straight line. So it should ideally be a straight line all the way across the canvas head. So we're just going to mark it there, and sometimes you can go back over it double times if you just want to make it more darker. But like I said, this is a silver metallic, so it's not going to be too dark, but you'll make a bolder line by marking over it twice or so. But yeah, so you just mark it like that, and then you're just going to connect it, and then you're going to continue marking your cap like so. It's very important to take your time and do not rush, because if you rush this process, then you could likely mess up, what you don't want to do. I have done it in the past with rushing, so it's very important to take your time with marking your cap. And now some circumferences may have more lines than others, so it all depends on the canvas head. You may have more lines on a smaller head than you would on a bigger, or vice versa. It all depends on how many bundles that you're putting in. For this particular wig, we're using 3 bundles, so therefore the wefts are going to be doubled, and then we're going to singly place those double weft on these lines, and that will give us a full wig, which typically is about 180 density. And so we're just going to connect on the same side. So you just follow the same steps on both sides, bringing it as a straight line. We're not curving our lines, we're just keeping it straight. So we're just coming straight across with that line. look like you can see it a little bit better on this side of the camera. But yeah, it's just keeping your line straight all the way through. Now, once you get up here by the closure, you're going to continue to mark your lines close to the closure, but you're following the markers that's in the center when you come around. And then once you hit that last line, then you're going to go ahead and mark off your actual closure itself. I always start at the back with marking off my closure and then work my way around to the sides. But you do want to go ahead and outline your closure as well, so you know exactly where your closure needs to be placed when you reattach it. So this is me marking the closure area. So that's where my closure ends. And then this is me marking the side of my closure as well. Okay, so once you're done marking it, you're gonna go ahead and remove your closure and just T-pin that right there. Don't take the whole closure off, because you want to know exactly where you need to put your closure back on when you get ready to put on the closure. But this is what your lines look like: very clean line, very straight line, and as you can see, the bold line is gonna be our closure area. So we're gonna go ahead and get ready to stitch our first weft. So to stitch your first weft, you're gonna go ahead and pick the side that you want to start on. I prefer starting working my way from left to right. So I will go ahead and place my first weft on my first line in the back, and work my way towards the front. So you want to make sure that the end of the weft lines up with the mesh dome cap, and then you're gonna go ahead and place your wig cap and your hair under the feeder. And it's very important to make sure that you're starting with the longest bundle first, and then place it under the feeder like so. Lower your level. There you go. And then you lower the needle and you go ahead and stitch it. So here, it jammed a little, so I have to, play around with it, and then feed it back through. So yeah, there I repositioned it and then back stitch. And sometimes because you're on the end of the cap, it can be a little hard. The needle that I've used is a heavy duty needle, so it's very important that you have a heavy duty needle when working with wigs, because you're dealing with multiple bundles and a mesh cap that can be a little thick up under this particular machine. But you want to follow the line neatly. Do not pull too tightly, because that will cause ripple and bumps and lumps in the wig. So you just want to make sure that it's flat as you're stitching. And you continue the same process throughout the entire wig. Back stitch on the end, back stitch on the end, and then you're good. And then you're going to cut off the needle, the thread. I said the needle, sheath. And cut like that. And you cut the weft off. Be very careful with cutting the wefts, because with cutting the wefts, what happens is basically you end up cutting some of your hair. You want to give your clients or customers all of their hair that they're paying for. So just be very careful with cutting your weft. But it should be very flat on the inside, flat on the outside. You should be right on your line. If you're right on the line, that's perfect. If you're beneath the line, that's great. Just try not to go above the line, because now you're cutting into the additional space for the next weft. And so we're going to line it up again at the end of our mesh cap, and then we're going to place it in the footer. Make sure your thread is out the way so that it doesn't cause it to jam. And you're just going to repeat the same process. And as you stitch each weft, I would like to say go back and check yourself. Make sure that it's flat inside and out. That is one of my ways that I like to double check my work to make sure that, you know, it's going to be a flat wig for my customers. So definitely as you stitch on each weft, you're going to go back and just double check and make sure that it's flat, and that, you know, it's lining up like the way that you want it. And then you're going to continue on sewing. So after each weft you sew on, you check inside and out for flatness. If you got flatness, then you're good. Okay, so now we have done making our wig. So now we're going to go ahead and hand stitch our closure on. So that's why I told you do not remove the closure from the canvas. Just stick it in place so you'll know exactly where you need to place your closure when you put your mesh cap back on. So I hand stitch on the closure, and then I go back to the machine and I'll sew it down with the machine. So this gives our closure an extra layer of security because it's hand sewn and it's also stitched as well. So just hand sew on the closure first, and then you can go back to the machine. It'll make it a lot easier using the machine to stitch on the closure. So there is little space in between the closure and the weft that you see there. There's going to be another weft I'm going to place there, but I'm going to secure my closure first, and then I'm going to place the last weft to secure that area so that this wig is a complete full wig, and that closure meets with the last weft. The last weft actually going to sit on top of the closure, the perimeter of the closure, giving it a full wig and a flat and seamless look. Okay, so now that we secured our closure, so now we're going to go back to the machine. It's very important when you use the machine with your closure that you move all hair from up under the footer. So you have to take your time with slowing on the closure, because if not, then you will cause the hair to get sewn down as you feed the closure through the footer. So take your time. And you're going to double back stitch on both ends of the closure to secure it. So you'll back stitch it, and then you'll go ahead and continue to stitch. But definitely take your time. You're going to see me taking my time as I'm putting on the closure, making sure that it's flat, and then I'm just stitching around the perimeter, that I'm not getting any hair stitched down. If you do get hair stitched down, you can always go in and remove it and uplift it from up under the stitching, but you have to be very careful because you don't want to pull the threading out of the closure or the cap, which will make the closure loose on the wig. But definitely just, take your time, remove the hair as you go out of the way so that you can get a secure stitch. Okay, so now that we secured our closure, we're going to go ahead and sew on our last weft. So you're going to line that last weft with the end of the closure, and you're also going to double stitch here. So everything needs to be secure when we start out. We double stitch, back stitch the end of the closure and the weft to make sure that it's fully secure. So line everything up, move your hair out the way like I'm doing there, and then go ahead and place it under the footer and begin stitching down the last weft, which is going to close off that area between the previous weft and the closure, and give it a flawless look. Okay, so now that we have successfully completed this closure unit, you're just going to go through and make sure there's no extra threads or anything. Cut off all extra threads. So you don't want to leave that, for the client to clean up. Go ahead and clean that up. And then we're going to go ahead and remove the mesh cap, the inside of the mesh cap. So that area there is what you're going to cut out with your shears. And you should get an image like this once you remove that. Doesn't that look so great? Look at the stitching, look at the quality. It's a beautiful wig already, and that's just from the construction of it. So your wig should look like that. The stitching is neatly apart. We followed our guidelines, so you can see how neat our stitching is as well. Then you're going to place your wig onto your canvas head and just double check your work for flatness. And as you see, it looks beautiful. It's, neatly stitched, well stitched. This is a secure wig that will last customers a very long time with proper care and maintenance. But your wig should look like this on the inside. What our closure and our last weft look like. So as you see, it looks very good. This is what you want it to look like. You want it to be able to cover up that closure very well by placing that last weft on top of that, the perimeter of the closure, giving it a seamless look and a full look for the customer.